Hello, today we're going to be reacting to 30 facts about Vikings. So let's get into this video right now.
Hello guys, and welcome to today's episode. I'm going to reveal you facts about Vikings, their past, their culture, and one interesting question. Is Valhalla mentioned in the Bible? Do Vikings exist today? Almost 1 million Britons alive today are of Viking descent, which means 1 in 33 men can claim to be direct descendants of the Vikings. Around 930,000 descendants of warrior race exist today, despite the Norse warriors' British rule ending more than 900 years ago. Why do Vikings no longer exist? The end of the Vikings occurred when the Northmen stopped raiding. A better question to ask is, why did the Vikings stop raiding? The simple answer is that changes took place in European societies that made raiding less profitable and less desirable. Where are Vikings now? Who are the descendants of the Vikings? Viking settlements exist in different parts of the world, including Denmark, Greenland, Iceland, Great Britain, Ireland, Scotland, Normandy, and Swedish parts of Finland, Estonia, and Latvia.
What about in Norway and Sweden? I thought they had like Nordic ancestry as well, especially in Norway.
Did Ragnar Lothbrok exist? According to medieval sources, Ragnar Lothbrok was a Danish king and Viking warrior who flourished in the 9th century. There is much ambiguity in what is thought to be known about him, and it has its roots in the European literature created after his death. Do Vikings believe in God? They believed that they shared their world with a whole range of gods and mystical creatures. The best known of the Viking gods are Odin, Thor, and Freya. Do Vikings still exist in 2022?
I've heard of Thor.
No, to the extent that there are no longer routine groups of people who set sail to explore, trade, pillage, and plunder. However, the people who did those things long ago have descendants today who live all over Scandinavia and Europe. Is Vikings a true story? Yes and no. Like Vikings creator Michael Hirst, Vikings, Valhalla creator Jeb Stewart has taken a creative license to the true story of some of the most famous Vikings. Many parts of the series take inspiration from real people and historical events, but much of the drama is fictional for dramatic purposes.
Ooh, so I didn't know that. So most of the movies aren't like real of what Vikings actually did?
Do people still believe in Odin? Thor and Odin are still going strong 1,000 years after the Viking Age. Many think that the old Nordic religion, the belief in the Norse gods, disappeared with the introduction of Christianity. However, it did not, but was instead practiced secretly or under a Christian cloak. Is Thor a Viking? Thor is one of the most important gods in Norse or Viking mythology. In some stories, he was the son of Odin, the chief Norse god. Thor was sometimes equated with the Roman god Jupiter, who was also called Jove. The Romans named a day of the week for Jupiter. Who killed the Vikings? King Alfred ruled from 871 to 899, and after many trials and tribulations, including the famous story of the burning of the cakes, he defeated the Vikings at the Battle of Edington in 878. After the battle, the Viking leader Guthrum converted to Christianity. Did Vikings sacrifice humans?
Interesting.
As human life was the most valuable sacrifice that the Vikings could make to the gods, we know from Britain sources that Odin, the king of the gods, demanded human sacrifices. How much of Vikings is true?
That is awful.
As one can see, there are significant departures from history throughout Vikings. The series makes no claim to be presenting accurate history, however, and its aim is to entertain, not educate. Even so, it has had the effect of engaging millions of viewers in European and Viking history and literature. What skin color were Vikings? They are like date palms and their skin is reddish. The most important knowledge about the physical appearance of the Vikings comes from archaeological finds of skeletons from the period. Up until now, around 500 Viking skeletons have been found in Denmark. Is Valhalla real? Yes, it's based on history, but loosely so. Almost every character in Vikings, Valhalla is based on a real person. Leif Erikson really did have an ambitious, murderous, hella cool sister named Freydis and Emma of Normandy, was a true medieval power player. Is Thor real?
Oh, that was pretty cool to learn.
Thor is a prominent god in Germanic paganism. In Norse mythology, he is a hammer-wielding god associated with lightning, thunder, storms, sacred groves and trees, strength, the protection of mankind, hallowing, and fertility. What language did Vikings speak? Like the other Scandinavian languages, modern Icelandic is descended from Old Norse, the language spoken by the Vikings. Unlike the other Scandinavian languages, Norwegian, Swedish, Danish, and Faroes, Icelandic has changed very little. What did the Vikings eat? Meat, fish, vegetables, cereals, and milk products were all an important part of their diet. Sweet food was consumed in the form of berries, fruit, and honey. In England, the Vikings were often described as gluttonous. They ate and drank too much, according to the English. Is Ragnar in Vikings Valhalla? Even though the new show mentions some character names that are easily recognized, these names are spoken about from a totally different perspective. Who is Odin god? Odin is the god of war and of the dead. He rules over Valhalla, the Hall of the Slain. All Vikings who died in battle belonged to him. They were collected by his female handmaidens, the Valkyries. Is Odin a real god? Odin, also Woden, is one of the principal gods in Norse mythology. His exact nature and role, however, are difficult to determine because of the complex picture of him given by a wealth of archaeological and literary sources. What kills Thor? Like almost all of the Norse gods, Thor is doomed to die at Ragnarok, the end of the world and twilight of the gods, but falls only after killing the great serpent with his powerful hammer Mjolnir, dying to its poison. His sons Magni and Modi survive Ragnarok along with a small number of other gods and inherit his. How are the Vikings so strong? One of the reasons for this was the Vikings' superior mobility. Their longships with a characteristic shallow draft hull made it possible to cross the North Sea and to navigate Europe's many rivers and appear out of nowhere or bypass hostile land forces. Did Vikings drink blood? Many different animals were sacrificed, especially horses. The blood from the sacrificed animals was collected in bowls, and twigs were used to spatter the blood on altars, walls, and cult participants. The meat was cooked and then eaten by all in attendance. Who converted Vikings?
That is crazy. So they pretty much, whenever they did like an animal sacrifice, they would drink the blood? That's wild.
To Christianity. On the gelling stone, it is written that Harold Bluetooth made the Danes Christian. The transition to Christianity is marked by King Harold Bluetooth's runestone at Gelling, which dates to around 965. The stone displays an inscription which declares that Harold made the Danes Christian. Who did the Vikings fear? They were particularly nervous in the Western Sea Locks, then known as the Scottish Fjords. The Vikings were also wary of the Gills of Ireland and West Scotland and the inhabitants of the Hebrides. Are English Vikings? The Romans, Vikings, and Normans may have ruled or invaded the British for hundreds of years, but they left barely a trace on our DNA the first detailed study of the genetics of British people has revealed. What is Valhalla to a Viking? Valhalla, Old Norse Valhall in Norse mythology, the hall of slain warriors who live there blissfully under the leadership of the god Odin. Valhalla is depicted as a splendid palace roofed with shields where the warriors feast on the flesh of a boar slaughtered daily and made whole again each evening. Why are Vikings so violent? Robert Ferguson argues that the chief motivation behind the Vikings' brutal raids on the British Isles was the need to defend their culture in the face of a Christian onslaught. On a clear day, a Viking longship at sea could be seen some 18 nautical miles away. Did Vikings fight Spartans? The Viking drew his broadsword and loosely hung his shield by his fist, as the Spartan opted for his kopis, his spear long broken. The two clashed into each other with force, but the Viking proved tricky. How common is Viking DNA? The genetic legacy of the Viking age lives on today, with 6% of people of the UK population predicted to have Viking DNA in their genes compared to 10% in Sweden. Professor Willerslev concluded the results changed the perception of who a Viking actually was. That history books will need to be updated. Is Valhalla mentioned in the Bible? In chapter 42, High describes right at the beginning, while the gods were settling, they established Asgard, then built Valhalla. The death of the god Balder is recounted in chapter 49, with the mistletoe used to kill Balder is described as growing west of Valhalla. Well guys, here we are. Share in the...
Alright, so this was pretty interesting. A lot of facts. There's 31, not 30. So let me know if you learned anything down below in the comments, because there's so much to take in. Wow.
According...
There's like the gods only gods I knew were Thor and Odin. Then they did say Norway later on. So there must have been Vikings in Norway. And they drank blood. They did human sacrifices. What? They were brutal to their enemies, it looks like. Raiding and plunging and stealing, taking land. And about 5% of people today have DNA of Viking ascent in Europe. Was it Europe or England? Yeah, it was Europe, I believe. No. I'm just tired. I'm gonna head off. It's late. So, peace to all. I'll catch you guys on the next video.